Hello. Welcome to our ecosystem. How's it going, Uji?
How's it going, Lola? How you doing?
Good. Let's start with the question that's gonna hook us. Uh, how has your sonic landscape been these days? What's it like?
It's been a good week in sound for me. Um, I had Saturday night. I had this amazing rehearsal. They invited me to be part of this installation
Mm-hmm.
where they're doing these like different projection surfaces and kind of this 3D kind of projection surface and a dancer behind, and like we're going to be behind the screens and they're working with lights and filming and feedback, and it's this very and they asked me to be a part of it, and so we had a rehearsal with along with Samantha, who's doing like live vocals, and so we were like playing around with we're kind of making the piece all together. Like the project is called Punto de Encuentro, like meeting point, and so the whole
Mm-hmm.
purpose is just to have different artists meet and see what comes up. That's kind of the whole purpose.
Like improv?
No, it could not necessarily be improv, but it's
Huh.
it's you go and you four artists come together and then we work and then something happens. So you can decide to make it improv or you can decide to make it whatever but it's all like kind of we're back going back and forth with different ideas, and it's very creative. Like I kind of set up this. I made a setup with like a guitar, my drum machine, and a few
Mm.
like synths that on Ableton, and playing it was super fun. So that's kind of what the highlight of my Sonic week and Sonic landscape has been. And you, what's your Sonic landscape been?
Oh, my sonic landscape. Well, I I've been asked to compose the soundtrack for a podcast.
Nice.
So it's a different podcast, and it's actually a friend of ours who's helping us with our video editing for all of these amazing videos that we're putting together. We've worked together in the past. He's a videographer. He's a documentary maker, actually, and I love working with him because he's really collaborative. Loves like working with me in the way that I've been able to put together sound in front of his visuals. So now it's not in front of his visuals, but as part of his podcast. So it's been interesting. It's been I love working on soundtracks. So it's like a hidden corner of your brain that you need to activate as a producer, which I love.
How do you approach it when they ask you?
So I asked them to send me references of like things that they like and that they feel that match their vibe. I also ask a lot around, yeah, what is the emotional landscape of this podcast? Like, how do you want people to feel? What is it? Is it something dark and nostalgic, or is it very upbeat? So I try asking about like what is the
Yeah, the
landscape look
tone.
like?
What's
What
the
is it?
go?
What are the textures of the tone? What is the vibe? Yes, exactly. And I ask a lot for like reference tracks. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, what do you like? What do you wish you could get? What's the vibe? And then from there, I just like start sketching. And knowing that there's a moment that like the vocals will come in, so obviously like your your production cannot be too full
Yeah,
because you need a certain level of space for their voice to come in, right? Or to be like, well, this is happening, so you can't be too um complete in your production process,
yeah.
if you know what I mean. So yeah, so that's happening.
And well, today we were thinking about talking about sonic identity and how to find your own kind of imprint, your own voice, especially in instrumental music. I feel it's very challenging.
Mm.
Um but I feel like with a project like that, it's like, okay, how much of your own voice do you actually put in, or how much you're adapting to whatever the project needs, you know? I feel
Right.
like,
It's a great question and segue from my Sonic week to Sonic Identity. I think for a project like that, there's a little bit of a compromise, right? It's like, okay, you want something in a vibe. However, they trust you for the music that you've created, so they know that there's a certain level of Lola. There
yeah.
will be a certain level of Lola in the result. However, I am getting inspiration from
Well, it has to serve a
the tracks
purpose.
that he's
You know,
singing.
it's music that
Yeah,
serves a very
exactly.
particular purpose. So you have to like make sure it works in those boundaries. You know?
Right. And I mean, luckily, my sound, my sonic identity is very cinematic. I work a lot with field recordings. I do a lot with, yeah, like editing sound and editing, um, yeah, recorded sound, which makes it really cinematic and really kind of ambient like. So it ends up, being very Lola without even me singing or, um,
What makes
you
it
know,
very Lola? Like, how would you define like sonic identity, or like, and how it's like your own, but also just like what are the things that distinguish one music from another, or one
yeah.
author from another author, in this case. What do you
Yeah,
feel like?
I mean, let's just first, in my opinion, nothing is 100% authentic. I don't I don't believe in like, oh, this is a
No, but
hundred
I don't
percent
think we're talking about
pure and
authenticity.
pristine
No, but
or
I mean,
authentic, or this is 100% Lola.
yeah.
Um, however, I mean, first of all, I started as a DJ, so I was like, okay, I want to sound like me. And as a DJ, you can do that. However, there's a limit because you're using other people's songs to tell a story. So yes, you can do it, but I felt a certain desire to sound really like me, and that's when I got into that was like the final push for me to be like, you got to make your own music if you really want to sound like you. So um that's what got me into music production. And obviously it took me years before I was like, okay, this is something that really sounds like something that I would play. So that was the first cue. It's like, is this track, or is this sound, is this percussion, is this bass something that I would play as Lola Villa, the DJ? Yes. Okay, that got me closer. Another cue was, okay, well, my vocals. What is Isn't there something like, your vocals are yours? The way that you sing is so unique to you. And that was another cue of like, okay, instead of, I mean, I will obviously collaborate with singers, but instead of using someone else's vocals, your vocals are the most unique to you.
Yeah.
And that was such a beautiful exploration for me. And also going back to the conversation that we had last week, my sense of identity, my sense of belonging, my Colombianness came out. I sound very American or very non-Colombian, but the moment I sing Uji, everyone is like, okay, you came from fucking Cartagena, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just so it comes from this place of wow. So
I
that
feel like you
that
touched
really,
on like a multitude of topics that we can kind of double click on. Like, because I feel
yeah.
like on one end, I feel the question like identity to me has nothing to do with originality. You know,
Mm,
like
mm-hmm.
it's very different. Another one is like your voice, and then another one is already kind of like your heritage in a way. So I feel like there's like three different topics that we can get into.
Where do you want
Um,
to go? Where do you want to go?
well, I feel like I talk about this a lot about a sonic identity, and I feel that your vocal cords are yours. only. You know, like the texture of your vocal cords, how you talk, how you speak. It identifies who you are. And so I could potentially listen to somebody's new song without ever hearing the song and identify who it is, as an audience member. Because when we're talking about sonic identity, I feel like, okay, like how do people even recognize it's you, you know? And so
Mm,
of course the vocals is the easiest. It's like, okay, oh, okay, that's a new Coldplay song because I know the Coldplay vocals. Oh, that's a new
mm-hmm,
blah blah song because I know what they sound like when they sing, But when we take
mm-hmm,
that away, that's kind of like already kind of in our DNA or in our body. That's when it gets trickier, to
mm,
work with it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I feel like the first thing you said about being original, you can have an identity wwithout being original. In the
100%.
sense, like
I I do agree.
I can play, I can do a cover of a song that is very popular and still give it my own twist, you know
Mm,
and it's not anything original, nothing that's never done before, but it's just like, oh, that sounds like Chromeo version, or that sounds like a Massive Attack version, just because they have these sonic. I said those because it's like, okay, like if you know the bands, you kind of, you can imagine a sound already with those, like, oh, Massive Attack, you can imagine a sound, kind of a you know a sort of sound. Or if I say, what's another artist that
I
has
mean, I
the.
think the I think that the to add to your point, uh, like when we say okay, like Massive Attack, we immediately know what type of sonic tapestry
Yeah, yeah.
we're talking about. However, Massive Attack doesn't live in a vacuum. It's not like their sound is independent or original from
No,
anything
yeah.
else, right? Is um they're the result of like all the albums that they listen to, and there's like a little bit of like Brian Eno over here, and then maybe like some Portishead over here, and then some trip hop over here, and like Thievery Corporation over here, and that like
Yeah.
90s hip hop kind of vibe over there.
Yeah,
So
and whatever
nothing
underground movement was happening at the time, at the place they were living in, like I feel like a lot of times these like mainstream acts, when they like burst into the scene with a new sound, it's actually not new. It's just new to the mainstream. You know,
totally.
it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
they as like Nirvana with the grunge, like it was a whole scene before they actually came into being, into like the
Mm-hmm.
popular view. But in the
Mm-hmm.
region where they were making music, that wasn't a new sound. They just you know resonated with more and more people, and so it became like a bigger thing. And for the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the world, it was a new sound. So there's always like movements and things and artists and like underground artists that don't get recognized. But if I listen to an album a lot, even though nobody knows it, it's going to influence my music. And so maybe then I do something and they think it's original from me, but I have my influence. But just because they
Mm-hmm.
don't know my influence, they don't know my references.
Totally. Yeah.
um but I
How
think,
about you?
no, I think, sonic identity definitely has to do with your kind of like music heritage, which I kind of feel like a lot of it is your upbringing and like where you live. Most of it is really the music that you listen to. And nowadays with the internet and stuff, like I can be born in, you know in Cartagena, and grow up on Ethiopian jazz. So so nowadays it's a little bit not so regional
Mm,
as before, though. Regionality has a big impact as well. I almost feel like culture. I used to be so into this. Culture it's kind of the collective combination of customs and sounds and tastes and idioms and languages, and all that becomes culture, right? And so like you're always
mm,
immersed in the culture. And
mm-hmm,
you're immersed in your most immediate culture. It's like, okay, what do your friends and your family listen to, say, talk, what they eat, what concerts do you go to with your friends, like what musics do you share with other people, and then these cultures now become more globalized and more virtual, and so you can be sharing things with people across the world. But it's like kind of this like shared language where kind of like the inside jokes, and the inside, almost like um and so, for example, my sonic identity has a lot to do with my upbringing, because I
Mm-hmm.
listened to music from different cultures, and I was able to, and even if you don't want to, like on the bus, or in, you hear chacarera, or you hear tango, or you hear, in your case, cumbia, or whatever's happening in your local surrounding, and that gets into your musicality. Like when I
Totally.
sing, I'm gonna have
Mm-hmm.
all kind of like the backlog of everything I listen to, and everything I listen to is different to everything you listen to,
Yeah, of course.
and
Yeah.
so
I
everybody
mean,
has their sonic, so their sonic palette of where they like come from.
yeah, I would even add to that. So for me, I see it as a like contradictions. So I feel like my life is full of contradictions, meaning, born and raised in Colombia, but like grew up in the Netherlands, like completely
Yeah,
opposite kind of culture, like what you're saying. And that reflects a lot in my music. So I need to have those like tension like moments where there's like incredible like warm percussions, and my vocals are really warm and really like feminine Colombian South American, but I need to have that like plastic 808 like hissy sound hi-hat from Europe, or like I love that tension, and that's because of my life being so
that's
extreme
your internal
sometimes.
struggles, or your internal struggles,
Yeah, 100%.
put
My
out
internal
put out there.
struggles of like, am I this or am I that? Am I like Dutch, or am I like, am I on time, or am I like the Latino that is not on time? Like, am I this or not? Like order or chaos. And I feel like what I love about my music and me finding this sonic identity is that like it has to be, there has to be element there have of like warm and organic, but I also love, like, I also, just like you, I grew up listening to like Tina Turner, it's like nasty and like 808s and just like plastic. Like I just don't want to be put in like pigeonhole into this like coconut vibe only,
Yeah.
just because I grew up only also just like listening to rock and roll and listening to grunge, listening to Nirvana, and then listening to Kraftwerk. Like we're also from the 80s, so what does that mean? So that
I
has
I sometimes
given me this like,
struggle. I sometimes struggle with my. It's almost like my internal tapestry of sound is wider than what the audience can handle. That's kind of my feeling, in the sense that, like, if I it's sometimes I feel constrained by the
wait,
algorithm or the market, in the sense
okay,
like I
oh
cannot,
no,
in the sense like, oh, maybe I'd like to put this like ambient thing here, or this, but well, people will not understand the music. Like every time my music has gotten like kind of wider, I feel like the it's harder to hold an audience.
I
But
think,
maybe this is my own feelings. I don't know if this is actually the
yeah,
truth, because
I
it's
think
almost
that is,
like people start expecting things from an artist.
yeah,
So I feel
this is
like
a
the
whole
so yeah, the sonic
conversation.
identity, but no, but sonic identity, I also feel, is a conversation with an audience, or it's something
Oh,
that
I
you
mean,
build upon.
yes.
It's almost like, okay, you do an album, and sonic identity also evolves, right? So okay, from that first album to the second album, I listened to so much more music. I started thinking about different things, like maybe, well, for example, for this, like now, what I was telling you about this week, the whole thing's on, like, it's based on Kandinsky, and the line and the point and the form and geometry, and so suddenly it's like, oh wait, what does this mean? And like this is also a part of me, and this is also a part of me. And as you start growing and changing, you start evolving, and that identity starts expanding, becoming wider. That's always the image I have, like the spectrum. It's always like, okay,
Mm.
oh, my identity is using green and white. Okay, and then, well, also yellow and brown are allowed. Oh, and also now like a super pink, and slowly you more things are, because it's a conversation with whoever's listening. So if I put
Yes.
an album out of like only orchestra music, and the next album is like tropical cumbia, and then the next album is like techno, and then the next album is very different, like I feel like you lose your audience. This is a sensation I have, because you're
To
not like in a
which
conversation.
extent, I'm curious, Uji, to which extent do you have the external audience in your head when you're producing or making an album? Because for me, I feel like that is a very tricky slippery slope into catering to someone outside of what you actually want to create inside, what actually matters to you.
I do not have the audience at all in mind when I create. Yet I do have them when I decide what to release, because I create so much more music than actually is released. You know.
Uh
So
huh.
when I release
Interesting.
music, I feel like there has to be part of the narrative, in the sense. It has to be make sense with the narrative. If not, it's very difficult to hold people's interest, you know?
Mm.
So so
I
I
feel
have
like
so
just a
much music, but
few.
when I make music, I don't have those boundaries at all. And then it's just like,
Uh
okay, and
huh.
and sometimes music lies in my computer for 10 years, and then now it's the time for it to be released, and I finish it and release it.
Damn. Oh my god, that's so different than me. Because I'm just like, this is how I'm feeling right now. This is my emotional sonic landscape right now.
Yeah.
And then I just need to let it out. And like, it needs to go. It needs to be released right now.
Mm.
I cannot, because if I go back 10 years or 5 years and I listen to it, then I'll be like, you no, like I'll just be full of like shame or whatever ideas. It's not perfect. It's not how I want it to be. It's not who I am right now. Why am I going to release it right now? So I'm just like, I get it. I do it. And then it's out. It's out. That's it. So, okay. So let me ask you, I have a follow up question for you.
Yeah.
Uh, would you say that you have multiple sonic identities? There's just one that gets to see
I have
the
multiple.
light
Well,
of the
I
world.
I, I sometimes struggle with this. I am I've worked a lot on the craft of making music and producing music and composing music. So the craft of all of that I have developed. So if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I want a string quartet for a ballet, whatever," I can do that. If somebody talks to me, it's like, "I need some like horror movie rock music for this documentary," I can do that. I can work in so many different sonic languages because of the craft, that then I have to decide, okay, wait, but what do I want to say? I have to like kind of make a distinction between what I can make and what I want to say. Okay, I can
Mm-hmm.
make, I don't know. Let me give you like a metaphor. Like, if you're like a carpenter, okay, I can make a chair, a table, a library, a house, an instrument. Okay, but what do I want to say with this? Okay, well, okay, I want my curves here, whatever. Okay, so I can make any type of table, but this is the kind of table that is my authorship of what I want to say, right? So I can make all sorts of music, but then I have to decide, okay, what do I want to say, you know and so, okay, I want to say
Uh-huh.
this is what it's important for me to say, and so that's why the music sounds like this. But
Yeah.
I can make it in all sorts of ways, like I can make it into many different things. I can make it into a reggae that sounds like a 1970s reggae, or I can make it into, because I have all these chops, I've worked a lot on the craft of making music.
Uh-huh.
And I have a lot of some part of my work is making music for documentaries, for audiovisual stuff, producing other people's music, and so I can It's more about me understanding what the other person wants than putting my identity into it.
Sure, but
And then I have
but
stuff where it's
that's
like, okay, this is my identity. What? But the
mm,
identity has to. I guess what I'm saying is that identity has to do with what you want to say as well. Like, okay, it's not only what you can say, but it's like what you want to say.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. This is all.
No, no. I mean, yeah, this is actually the point. I mean, for me, I have an approach to product. I have developed an interest in an approach to making music with it is like my it's like a spiritual practice for me, right? Where I like go and record sounds and have a connection to a place, and then that is the source of inspiration from which I can then make my album or my EP or whatever. um and that is the connecting thread. And sometimes I also struggle with this idea of like, okay, well, people are expecting four to the beat or like Latin American electronica.
Okay, so it's
And
not true that you don't think about the audience.
I do think so, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
but every now and then I'm just like, no, this is what's coming out from me right now.
yeah.
I just I'm not the kind of person who's gonna all of a sudden like I'm not gonna produce a jazz album or like a reggae album. You know, I love house music. I love electronica. I love techno. But I'm Latin American, and that has it's like in my DNA. So how can I have like certain elements that are so part of me because I love them, but have like certain elements that stick and certain elements that are like fully free for me to go. It's like, for instance, like when I was in Japan, I was like, holy shit, this country's insane. I want to do something about this. And I felt so inspired. And maybe Lola 5 years ago would have been like, but you're not Japanese. You're not from this country, so you cannot make Japanese music. And now I'm just like, I traveled here. I got soaked into this culture. I want to absorb it. I want to learn. Um,
Well, and
uh,
filter it through your own experience. So it's
and
not like
filter it
you're
through my
making
own
it. It's
experience.
not like you're making Japanese music. You're making
No, it's not like
music.
tomorrow I'm gonna be like Lola Ugasaki. No, of course
So
not. Like
yeah, so I feel like I really like the word filter. It's like almost like your sonic identity is life filtered through you.
yeah,
In a
on
way,
a
like
daily,
on a daily
on a
basis. It's
daily.
like okay, so it's like okay, I've been really into Miles Davis or into jazz, and suddenly, when I sit on the piano, I'm gonna make music that sounds more similar to what I'm or inspired by what I'm listening to. But or if I'm listening to a lot of salsa music and I'm sitting on the piano, I'm gonna maybe tend to do something that has those inspirations, even though I'm not making salsa, even though I'm not making anything that is trying to resemble what I just listened to. It is in there. It's almost like you
Totally.
cannot unlearn or unhear what you've heard. I always say
Yeah.
I also say this. It's like okay, it's impossible to unhear. Like you know how to learn talk English. It's almost impossible to not know how to talk English anymore once you learn it. It's like okay, you know it, you know it. You have to have like some sort of um
You responsibility. You have a
yeah. No,
responsibility
not a responsibility.
to
It's like no, you know,
the.
it's
No, I'm
almost you
kidding.
cannot like it's hardwired. You have to have like brain damage. You have to have like a big
No,
situation,
it's
like a crisis that goes beyond like
yeah,
regular situations for you to actually forget that. And so it's the same. Like once you hear something, it is there. How
yeah.
much did it
Like
impact you? If it impacted you more, then it's going to have a bigger resonance, and so it's gonna actually then come through your music more. If it impacted you less, then it's going to come through you less. And
yeah,
so it's like
yeah, yeah,
so I feel like in a way we are just filtering. We're filtering the sounds.
yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is a side of me that is like, oh, now I just want to make an ambient album, and then there I'll be like, well, how is my audience gonna receive
Well,
that? However, well, like for instance, with my last album, which was a full album, I just had a few tracks that were like hyper slow and very ambient, like, and I gave myself the chance to produce an album that was very diverse sonically and not just for to the beat dance floor stuff, you know? And
Yeah.
that's, I feel like an album is maybe a good place where we can really explore the edges of this like sonic identity without sacrificing, like confusing our audience, maybe. You know?
Yeah. I feel well. An album is well, it's a whole other conversation, but it's an album is like a book. Like I feel like I really like using metaphors, because I feel like it's a quick way of seeing it. If you're a writer, you can write your weekly article for the newspaper where you're like talking about some sort of thing, depends what your article's about. You have like a column, but then you can also work on a novel, right? Or on some poetry or on something.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have like, okay, your craft as a writer you have down, and you can you're a very proficient writer where you can like look at something, analyze it, give a point of view, but then okay, what is my soul want to say? And that's where you write it in a novel, where you can kind of have like an arc, and you can give like multiple layers of information and of meaning and multiple, and so an album is kind of like that. So you have multiple layers of what I'm trying to say,
Mm,
multiple sensations, like much more complex things, and an album gives you that space and time.
mm,
Though I don't even know if
yeah.
people listen to albums I-
Oh, I
nowadays, but
know.
we're already
I
at
know.
30 minutes. The time flies.
Oof. Time flies. We're having good conversations. Um, well, I feel like we covered quite a little bit, and I mean, maybe
I
like
feel like
moral of
this is
the
something that
story.
we could be talking with all of our guests. So I'm going to tell people first, uh,
Sonic laughter.
subscribe, follow. We're going to be uploading these conversations. We're going to be having a bunch of guests over. We're going to be talking about the creative process, our roles as artists, our process as artists, as sound musicians, uh, crazy nomad people that we are. And we are going to be listening to music, talking about the things that people have made. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things. So, hope you guys join us for next episode.
Yes.
Lola,
I mean,
always too little time.
I know. We've got another episode though. We've got lots of episodes, so I'm excited.
Okay. So, goodbye, everybody.
All right.
Till next time.
Bye. Till next time.